Imagine being kicked out of your own home at 17 only to find out your roommates were your mom's new husband and his kids. Fast forward, and now she's blasting inappropriate TikToks of your baby nephew after being told to stop. The same woman who once called you crazy now posts about stalkers while exploiting a literal infant online. This isn't just family drama, it's a battle for justice, safety, and truth. Today, I'm exposing the twisted reality of a toxic mother gone viral. Growing up under my mother's roof felt like walking on eggshells, except the eggshells were constantly shifting, and you never knew which crack would set her off. She wasn't the screaming, throwing things type. No, she was subtle. Her rage came dressed up as concern, her control disguised as love, and her worst moments were always followed by forced smiles like nothing ever happened. From the outside, she looked like a single mom doing her best. That's what made it all so confusing. Teachers loved her, neighbors waved, and people always said, "You're so lucky to have a mom like that." If only they knew. If only they heard the things she said when the door was closed, the way she weaponized guilt and gaslighting like it was second nature. Her moods ruled the house. If she was in a good one, everything felt okay, like maybe she'd changed. Like maybe you were overreacting about all the chaos. But those moments never lasted. A dirty dish, a slow response, a tone she didn't like, any of it could trigger her spiral. And when that happened, it wasn't just yelling. It was calculated, the silent treatment, twisted stories that made you question your own memory, accusations that came out of nowhere. Mental illness may explain some of her behavior, but it doesn't excuse the destruction she left behind. Whether she was on meds or not, the damage was always real and always aimed at those closest to her. It became impossible to separate the sickness from the manipulation. She knew what she was doing. One of her favorite tactics was pretending everything was fine to outsiders while emotionally gutting us behind closed doors. When she kicked me out at 17, she told the family she was making room for roommates to help with bills. Sounds logical, right? But those roommates turned out to be her new husband and his 2 kids, who she brought in like royalty while her own child was thrown out like garbage. She didn't cry when I left. She didn't even flinch. In fact, she acted like she was doing me a favor. "You're grown," she said. "It's time to figure things out." Never mind that I had no plan, no money, no support, just a suitcase and trauma. But the manipulation didn't stop at abandonment. She rewrote the story every time someone asked. According to her, I chose to leave. I was ungrateful, hard to live with, too sensitive. She turned my pain into a performance piece where she was always the misunderstood victim. And here's the most twisted part, she believed her own lies. That's the thing about manipulators. The best ones convince themselves first. It's easier to play the hero when you forget all the damage you caused. Looking back, I realized she trained us to protect her image no matter how much it hurt us. Every family gathering, every social media post, every fake smile was just part of the script she wrote, and we played our parts because defying her came with consequences. If you questioned her, you were crazy. If you set boundaries, you were abusive. If you tried to escape, she made sure people saw you as the villain, and that's how she thrived. Through manipulation, projection, and a carefully crafted narrative where she was always the one under attack, but not anymore. This story isn't about revenge for the sake of it. It's about breaking free from the performance. It's about protecting the next generation, my nephew, from the same cycle that tore through ours, and exposing the truth. That's the first step. It didn't happen during a blowout fight or some final fiery showdown. Getting kicked out at 17 was cold, calculated, and disturbingly casual, like I was just another piece of clutter she decided no longer served her aesthetic. One evening, out of nowhere, she sat me down with that fake calm she always used when she was about to drop something cruel. "I think it's time," she said, sipping her wine like this was a business decision. "You're almost grown. You need to start figuring things out." That was it. No warning, no conversation, no concern about where I'd go or how I'd survive. Just a decision made behind my back and served to me like leftovers. The next day, she helped pack my things. Not because she cared, but because she wanted control over even my exit. What she didn't say, but I would find out soon enough, was that my room was already promised to someone else, a new man. her new husband, and his kids. The same woman who always said she didn't trust men around her children suddenly had no problem letting a whole new family move in after getting me out of the way. It was like being erased. My clothes, my posters, my books, all gone within a week. The room was repainted, my presence scrubbed clean. No trace left of the kid who used to dream in that space. I didn't just lose a roof over my head, I lost the last illusion that I mattered to her. Emotionally, I didn't even have the tools to process what happened. I was 17, barely out of high school, trying to pretend like I had it all under control. But I didn't. I spiraled. Anxiety became my shadow, trust issues dug in deep, and every time someone tried to get close, I flinched because I learned early that love came with conditions. That home wasn't safety, it was a place you could be exiled from at any moment. Financially, it was survival mode. I couch surfed, worked crap jobs, skipped meals, and pretended I was okay just to avoid pity. I carried that sense of being replaceable into every relationship for years. My mental health? Shredded. Depression hit hard. But I kept it quiet, because if I showed weakness, she won. And she loved playing the victim. When family asked why I wasn't around, she lied through her teeth. They wanted to leave, she'd say, voice trembling on cue. They didn't like the rules. Suddenly, I was the rebellious runaway, not the abandoned child. People believed her because she cried better than I could explain my trauma. But let's be honest, this wasn't about independence or tough love. This was about convenience. She didn't want me. She wanted a man. And I was in the way. She sold me out for the promise of a new life, a do-over family where she could play house without the burden of her past. And in that fantasy, I didn't fit. Her new husband and his kids became her whole world, at least for a while. She bent over backward for them in ways she never did for us. School supplies, bought in bulk, home-cooked meals, every night, affection. Effortless. Watching her give them everything she denied me wasn't just painful. It was proof that she could be loving. She just chose not to be with me. I used to wonder what I did wrong. Was I too much? Not enough? But I've come to understand that people like her don't love based on who you are, they love based on what you do for their image. And once you stop serving that, you're disposable. Getting kicked out at 17 didn't just push me into adulthood, it shoved me off a cliff. But hitting the bottom taught me something she never could, how to build myself from nothing. And now I'm done hiding the truth. This isn't just my story, it's a warning. A call to every person out there being told they're too sensitive while being slowly erased by someone who should protect them. You're not crazy, you're just waking up. I wish I could say I was the last casualty. That once I was gone, things got better for the rest of the family. But the truth is, toxic people don't change just because you leave. They just find a new target. And for my mother, that target became my younger sister. At first, it seemed like she'd learned something from what happened to me. She treated my sister with a bit more warmth, took her on trips, posted her smiling on Facebook, played the doting mother when people were watching. But behind closed doors, the pattern was already setting in. The same dismissiveness, the same passive-aggressive control, the same conditional love with strings attached and traps laid out like landmines. My sister is tougher than I ever was at that age. She speaks her mind, challenges injustice, and doesn't play into guilt. And that's exactly why she became a threat to our mother's illusion of control. It started with small things. Snide comments about her parenting, silent treatment when she disagreed, accusing her of being ungrateful for basic support. But it escalated fast. Especially when she set boundaries, especially about her son. My sister made one thing very clear. She didn't want her child posted online. Not in family group chats, and definitely not on public social media. But our mother couldn't help herself. She posted videos of her grandson infant-aged. Mind you, on a TikTok account filled with disturbing content. Videos where she claimed to be stalked, where she spoke about sex and relationships, all while mixing in clips of a baby who couldn't consent, who didn't even understand what was happening. When my sister confronted her kindly at first, then firmly our mother did what she always does, flip the narrative. She claimed she was being attacked, she was being cut off from her grandchild. She was the victim of toxic daughters who don't respect their elders. The drama hit a fever pitch fast. And now, my sister is out, just like I was. No notice, no compassion, no concern for where she and her baby would go. She was simply told to figure it out, while our mother stood there, arms crossed, like she'd just fired an employee who wasn't performing to standard. It wasn't just cruel, it was calculated. She did it to reclaim control, to punish defiance, and to make herself the center of attention again. The emotional toll on my sister has been devastating. One moment she was trying to protect her child, the next she was scrambling to secure shelter, diapers, and peace of mind. She's been staying with friends, trying to hold it all together, but I see the cracks, the exhaustion in her eyes, the guilt that creeps in even when she knows she did the right thing. Because that's what our mother leaves behind, not just broken homes, but broken minds. She doesn't just kick you out physically, she evicts your sense of worth too. And for a new mom trying to do right by her baby, that weight is unbearable. Practically speaking, it's a nightmare. She's had to put her career on pause. She's juggling new mom responsibilities with housing insecurity, and all while dealing with the mental gymnastics of being gaslit by the person who was supposed to support her most. I wish I could protect her from all of this. I wish I could undo it all, but what I can do is speak out. Shine a light on this pattern before it repeats again. Because if there's one thing our mother's proven, it's that she's not capable of love without control. And when that control is challenged, she cuts people loose no matter who they are or how much they need her. My sister didn't deserve this. Just like I didn't, just like our nephew definitely doesn't. But if we can't get justice through her, we'll get it through truth. Through every video, every share, every voice that refuses to let this kind of abuse stay hidden behind fake smiles and filters. If everything else she did was private pain, the TikTok saga took her manipulation public. It started small, like most things with her, do a harmless post here and there, a selfie video with background music. A dramatic story time no one asked for. At first, it felt like typical attention-seeking behavior, the kind we'd grown used to seeing. But then she found a new source of content, her grandson. An innocent baby who didn't ask to be online, who couldn't say, stop, who didn't even know what a camera was. My sister made it clear from the beginning, do not post my child, and not just once. She told her multiple times in person, over text, and through mutual family. It wasn't about being controlling, it was about safety, privacy, and consent. But like every boundary ever placed in front of our mother, she bulldozed right through it with a smile and a justification. It's my page, she said. He's my grandbaby too. Except her page wasn't some locked-down, private account for close family. It was a public circus filled with bizarre, unsettling content that no child, especially not an infant, should be mixed up in. She started posting videos with his face front and center. Bath time shots, close-ups of him sleeping, even one where she captioned it with, "He's my little soulmate." Cute on the surface until you scroll one post down and see her ranting about her stalker ex, describing her sex life or thirst-trapping in low-cut tops while lip-syncing to explicit audio. She treated TikTok like therapy, but instead of talking to a professional, she talked to the algorithm. Her feed is a chaotic mix of self-victimization, vague threats, inappropriate thirst content, and clips of a literal baby. And that combination is more than just weird, it's dangerous. One of the worst things I saw was a video of the baby lying on her bed, just a diaper on with some sultry R&B song playing in the background. She captioned it with something like, "Peace in the middle of my storm." You'd think the internet would call that out, but no. It got likes, comments from strangers. Some calling him adorable, others saying DM me or dropping fire emojis, while his face was right there. The lack of awareness is one thing, but the willful ignorance after being warned, that's something else. My sister told her this was unsafe. She begged her to take the videos down. She explained how predators look for this kind of content. She even sent her articles about digital child exploitation, but our mother didn't care. She blocked her own daughter on TikTok instead. That was the final straw for us. Because at that point, it wasn't just boundary crossing, it was a complete disregard for safety. Legally, she's treading on thin ice. Posting a child without parental consent, especially in a context that is arguably sexualized, could fall under child exploitation or endangerment in some jurisdictions. TikTok's own guidelines explicitly ban sexualizing minors and endangering child safety. But moderation is slow, and violators often fly under the radar unless mass reported, and morally, there's no defense. A baby is not your content. A child's face isn't your leverage in some twisted attempt at internet sympathy. She didn't post him out of love. She posted him to paint a picture. Look at me, the misunderstood grandma, caring for this child while my cruel daughters cut me off.
It was a narrative tool, not a moment of affection.
The captions weren't just tone deaf. They were dangerous. She'd write things like, "They can keep me from him," or "Blood is thicker than lies," clearly directed at my sister. It was passive-aggressive warfare using the baby as a pawn in a digital custody battle that no one else even knew was happening. The worst part? The people who follow her don't see the truth. They see the crying woman talking about how she's being erased from her grandbaby's life and how she survived narcissistic abuse and is just trying to heal. They send her virtual hugs. They tell her she's strong. And the likes roll in, fueling the delusion. Meanwhile, my sister is left feeling powerless. She's done everything right, set boundaries, kept her child safe, tried to keep peace. But none of it matters when someone is so determined to play the victim that they weaponize an innocent baby just to maintain a public persona. That's why we're fighting back. We've reported her account, flagged the videos, and encouraged others to do the same. We've saved screenshots. We've documented every interaction. Because this isn't petty family drama anymore, it's about protecting a child who can't protect himself. TikTok might take a while to act. But we won't wait in silence. We'll speak up. We'll keep reporting. And we'll expose the truth until that account comes down, because no amount of likes is worth a baby's safety. There's a line that separates family sharing from exploitation, a line my mother has crossed over and over again without hesitation or remorse. And the scary part? She doesn't even see the problem. To her, it's just a grandma showing off her grandbaby. But in the digital age, the rules of consent and safety are far more complex and far more important. Consent isn't just a buzzword. It's a fundamental right, especially for children who can't speak for themselves. When a parent says, "Don't post my child," that's not a suggestion, it's a boundary rooted in protection. And ignoring that boundary doesn't just disrespect the parent. It puts the child at risk. My mother acts like family bonds exempt her from that rule. As if being the grandmother gives her a free pass to override a mother's wishes. But love doesn't mean ownership. And being related to someone doesn't give you the right to use their child as social media content. Especially when your page includes themes that are completely inappropriate for a child to appear alongside. Digital consent means understanding the weight of what you're uploading. Every image, every video, every caption becomes part of a child's digital footprint. And when those images are out in the open, especially on public accounts with no safeguards in place, they're vulnerable to being downloaded, reposted, misused. Once it's on the internet, you can't get it back. You can't undo the exposure. And my mother? She's chosen clout over caution, engagement over empathy. Legally, this is uncharted territory for a lot of families. In many places, there's no federal law explicitly banning grandparents from posting grandchildren without consent unless the content crosses into clearly illegal territory like child sexual exploitation or harassment. But that doesn't mean what she's doing is okay. Civil court is beginning to see more cases where parental rights are violated in the digital space. And morally, there's no gray area. If the child's parent says, "No," you stop. Full stop. There's also the emotional cost, the part people don't talk about enough. Children grow up. They see these posts. They hear about how their image was used without their consent. They discover that the internet knew their face before they did. That strangers commented on their bodies. That their privacy was auctioned off for likes. And the parents? They're left trying to patch up the damage. Trying to re-establish a sense of control that was stripped away. My sister is living that reality now, feeling helpless as her son's face appears on a page that's more about trauma dumping and thirst trapping than family love. This isn't just about my mother. It's about a generation of adults who think that technology is theirs to use without consequence, who treat social media like a diary and children like props. And we have to be the ones to draw the line, to say, consent matters even in families. Especially in families. Because the internet remembers everything. And someday, my nephew will grow up and ask why his boundaries weren't respected. I want him to know that someone tried. That someone stood up and said, this isn't okay. It is time we stop excusing bad behavior just because it comes from someone with a shared last name. Family isn't a free pass to violate privacy. And real love means protecting a child's right to be safe, unseen, and unexploited. The moment my mother blocked my sister for asking her to take down those videos, something shifted in all of us. We weren't just dealing with a difficult family member anymore. We were dealing with a real threat. A threat to our privacy, to our child's safety, and to our peace. And we decided right then and there, we weren't going to stay silent. The first step was obvious report her TikTok account. We flagged every video with my nephew's face, especially the ones paired with adult themes, inappropriate music, or stalker-baiting captions. TikTok's guidelines clearly prohibit content that endangers minors, yet nothing happened right away. No takedown, no warning. Her page stayed up like business as usual, while we watched her views climb with every disturbing post. We didn't stop there, we mobilized. I reached out to friends, old classmates, and even online parenting groups to help mass report the account. Every report counted. Every click got us closer to making enough noise for someone at TikTok to finally listen. We documented everything, screenshots, links, timestamps, because we knew if the platform didn't act, we might need legal backup down the line. But while we fought for action, she kept building her narrative. My mother's gaslighting game went into overdrive. She began painting herself as the victim online, telling her followers she was being silenced, kept from her grandbaby, and attacked by jealous daughters. In her version, we were the villains. We were ungrateful, manipulative, even abusive. And you know what's wild? People believed her. Strangers in her comments cheered her on. They said things like, "You don't need those toxic girls," and "Your grandson is lucky to have you." They didn't see the stolen videos or the ignored boundaries. They saw a crying woman playing soft music behind a shaky selfie, and they bought the performance. That's the part that hit the hardest. Watching her weaponize her pain, twist it into this digestible story of the wronged mother, and rack up digital sympathy while we sat in the shadows trying to protect a child. TikTok might be full of silly dances and viral trends, but for us, it became a battleground for truth and safety. Even within the family, the divide grew deeper. Some relatives wanted to stay neutral. "She's still your mom," they said. Maybe she didn't mean harm. But neutrality in the face of harm is just complicity in disguise. Others defended her outright, claiming we were overreacting or trying to ruin her reputation. As if reputation matters more than a child's safety. Still, we kept pushing. I crafted detailed messages explaining the situation and sent them to TikTok's support contacts. We submitted child endangerment reports through every available channel. We emailed organizations that advocate for child digital rights. And we didn't stop speaking up, not online, not in private conversations, not anywhere. We also started warning others, posting publicly about the dangers of oversharing kids online, using our experience as a cautionary tale. Some people messaged us privately, thanking us for shedding light on something they were too scared to talk about. That's when I realized this wasn't just about us anymore. This was bigger. It became a mission to speak for every parent who's had their child's boundaries ignored, every sibling who's watched the cycle repeat, every family member who's been gaslit into silence. We were no longer just trying to get one account taken down. We were trying to expose a pattern, a mentality, a failure of the platforms we trust with our lives. And we began to see traction. Some of her followers started questioning her posts. Others asked why videos disappeared. The pressure started to build. The image she crafted began to crack. And cracks, as we've learned, always lead to collapse, eventually. We still haven't won, not yet. Her account lingers, her ego still posts. But the tide is turning. Because with every share, every report, Every voice that joins this fight, we're closer to the truth, breaking through the noise. This isn't about cancel culture. It's about accountability. About protecting those who can't protect themselves. About saying loud and clear, you don't get to exploit a child because you're bored, bitter, or broken. You don't get to hide behind the word family while you trample over every value that word is supposed to stand for. She may have raised us, but she doesn't get to define us. And now, we're raising our voices for ourselves, for each other, and for the little boy who deserves better than a grandmother who sees him as content. This is our fight. And we're not backing down. Toxicity doesn't just show up out of nowhere. It's passed down sometimes through silence, sometimes through shouting. In our family, it was woven into everyday life. The manipulation, the gaslighting, the emotional whiplash, it all felt normal until we got far enough away to name it for what it was: generational trauma. I used to think being strong meant surviving it, keeping quiet, powering through. But I've learned that real strength is breaking the cycle. It is not about pretending you're okay, it's about doing the work to actually be okay. For me, that started with therapy. I had to unlearn so many things I thought were love. That love was conditional, that expressing needs made you a burden, that your worth depended on how useful you were to someone else's narrative. Therapy gave me language for the pain I used to think I was crazy for feeling. It gave me tools, space, clarity. Setting boundaries came next, and that was the hard part. Because when you grow up with someone like my mother, saying no feels like betrayal. But I've learned that protecting your peace is not betrayal, it's survival. And setting those boundaries, even when it means going no contact or facing backlash, is one of the most liberating things I've ever done. My sister is on that journey too. She's not just healing for herself, she's doing it for her son. Every day she chooses protection over performance, truth over tolerance. She's breaking the cycle with every no, every step away from dysfunction. Every moment she puts her son's safety above someone else's feelings. We talk a lot about what we want our nephew to grow up knowing, that his body is his, that his voice matters, that love doesn't come with strings. That family isn't defined by DNA, but by how safe you feel in their presence, and above all, that his privacy is sacred. Protecting him has become a shared mission. He deserves a life free from the toxicity we inherited. And that means holding people accountable, even if they're family. That means being the adults we needed when we were younger. That means showing up not just when it's easy, but when it's uncomfortable and complicated and raw. Breaking generational trauma isn't glamorous. It's lonely sometimes. It means losing people. It means being the black sheep, but what you gain: peace, clarity, the ability to breathe without guilt crushing your chest, and the power to rewrite the story for yourself and for those who come after. If you're reading this and seeing pieces of your own life in mine, please know this: you are not alone. So many of us were raised by people who never healed, who passed down pain like a family heirloom. But you don't have to accept that inheritance. You get to choose what you carry forward. You get to choose peace. Maybe your mother isn't a parent. Maybe it's a sibling, a grandparent, a partner, whoever they are. Their title doesn't entitle them to your life. Your peace matters. Your safety matters. Your truth matters. And there is life on the other side of dysfunction, real, full, joyful life. Healing isn't a straight line. Some days you'll feel like you've made progress. Other days you'll wonder if you've moved at all. But every boundary you set, every truth you speak, every step you take away from what broke you, that's healing. That's growth. That's how cycles end. And we're ending it right here, right now. This story isn't just mine. It's for every person raised in chaos, every sibling trying to protect the next, and every survivor of family betrayal. If this sounds like something you or someone you love is dealing with, don't stay silent. Protect the innocent, speak the truth, and take your power back. If you found this story powerful, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's keep these conversations alive.